1.
Good evening, Yorktown, and welcome to the Town Board meeting for March 2nd, 2021. If you could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Again, I want to, forgot my mask. I want to apologize. I want to welcome everyone to tonight's Town Board meeting. We just had our pledge, so now if you could join me in a moment of silence as we remember the one-year anniversary as that we approach of COVID-19 and the COVID-19 pandemic reaching the United States and the state of New York. As always, we keep in our thoughts and prayers those we've lost, more than 500,000 Americans to the COVID-19 pandemic. We also keep in our thoughts and prayers our frontline heroes who continue to battle the pandemic. We, of course, remember our first responders, our police officers, our nurses, doctors, grocery store workers, and sanitation workers. We also keep in our thoughts and prayers the bravest men and women the world has ever known, those protecting our freedoms overseas, serving in the United States military. Amen. Thank you.
Amen.
Okay, introductions. Again, Matt Slater, Town Supervisor, joined by our Town Board, Councilman Vishnu Patel, Councilwoman Alice Roker, Councilman Tom Diana, and Councilman Ed Lachterman. We are joined also by our Town Clerk, Diana Quast. We have with us our Highway Superintendent, Dave Paganelli, with the new photo I see there, which is great. We also have two special guests with us tonight who will be speaking momentarily. And those are our county legislators. We have Vidat Gashi of Legislative District number 4 and Colin Smith of Legislative District number 1. Good evening, everyone. I'll begin my report to the town. Quite a bit to discuss tonight. We'll start with some of our infrastructure projects. For our residents who live along Hill Boulevard on the north side of town, Hill Boulevard, as you know, we're going to be replacing the culvert. Westchester County Department of Health handed down their approval late last week. So we anticipate the closure of Hill Boulevard from Village Road to Route 6 beginning March 8th. This will be an estimated 12-week period. So again, from Village Road to Route 6, you will not be able to drive through that section of Hill Boulevard. This is, again, part of our Bridge New York project. That's paired with Veterans Road. As we all know, Veterans Road has been closed now for some time. We are nearing the end of that culvert replacement. From the update we received last week, they intend to have Veterans Road, again, this is all weather permitting, of course, Veterans Road opened and repaved by mid-March is what the goal is at this point in time. Our Greenwood Street culvert replacement is nearly finished. That was an emergency that the town engaged in to replace that culvert, which was collapsing. I'm sure our highway superintendent can provide more information on that as well. Happy to report that the Roma building has started to make improvements to their lower parking lot. This was a result of our building department who actually went over to the Roma building and found them not in compliance with their 2016 settlement. We do expect the lower lot to be fully paved and lined by the end of April. In the meantime, they are working on making the curb ADA accessible and filling the potholes in that lower parking lot by Oscars. Our bulk pickup schedule is continuing. This past week, we had Section 6 beginning March 22nd. We will have Section 2. I want to make sure that's correct. Section 2 is the next one up on our bulk schedule. And again, I'm sorry. Section 6 is March 1st. Section 1 is March 15th. And Section 2 is March 22nd. Those are the next three that we have scheduled. And you can always go to our refuse and recycling website to get that information. And you can also get that received as they sent out their annual mailer with all this great information. Granite Knolls Sports Complex remains closed due to the parking lot not being able to be plowed as a result of the recent snow. Again, it's really because they have those yellow, I think they're called pavers, the yellow parking strips that they have there. So the plows can't actually plow the parking lot without tearing those up. So Granite Knolls parking lot remains closed. Our finance department is preparing for our annual audit, which is expected to begin in 2 weeks. Very happy to report that the Northern and Westchester Joint Waterworks has accepted the 16-inch and 20-inch water mains. That's something that the town board had passed a resolution on a few weeks ago. This should have been, both water mains should have been given to the Northern Westchester Joint Waterworks as assets when it was originally formed. We are working with Joint Waterworks to make sure that the accounts associated with those pipes, which are located in Somers actually, are to be transferred by mid-June. So we're happy to see that continuing to make progress. The water department is preparing for our annual water quality report, which is due in May. Also happy to report that the County Department of Health has recently inspected both the tanks at French Hill and Mohegan, and there were no major deficiencies found. And so we're good job to our water department. I want to thank our Parks and Rec and the Yorktown Chamber of Commerce for hosting a snowman contest. I saw close to 22 wonderful participants and awards that were given out to some great kids and very creative snowmen that I saw, which was always fun to see. I want to also let residents know that we are working diligently with Westchester County. Westchester County has provided a very unique opportunity to participate in an organic food scraps program. And recently, this past week, I spoke with the county on that program with Phil Marino, who heads up our refuse and recycling department. And I'm very confident that this is something that the town of Yorktown is going to be able to engage in. It makes a lot of sense both environmentally, but also financially. And so we are hoping to finalize the details and join the IMA with other participating municipalities across Westchester County. In addition, very happy to say that we're working diligently with our Senior Services Office, Noreen O'Driscoll, to put together an internship program that's going to connect students with our seniors. And this is something that we've heard a lot about this year, especially during the winter storms, especially during COVID. And so we're going to be hopefully we're developing a program that's going to provide an internship opportunity for our youth to be able to assist our seniors in a whole wide range of ways, from programming a telephone or a cell phone, teaching them how to use social media, teaching them how to set up an email account. Also, whether it's we have a couple of ideas about some artistic opportunities to send cards to some of our homebound seniors. And so those are all things that we're working together with our school districts and our Senior Services Office, and we're very excited to have that come to fruition as well. Lastly, and I told my wife I would do this because it is Dr. Seuss's birthday, and usually in about 15 minutes I'm reading bedtime stories to my kids. But since I can't tonight, how about a little Dr. Seuss in honor of his birthday? So to my kids, if you're watching at home, make sure you go to bed in 15 minutes. Always remember, you are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, smarter than you think, and twice as beautiful as you've ever imagined. So happy birthday to Dr. Seuss. He always has a great anecdote for any situation you find yourself in. And with that ends my report to the town. We'll go over to Councilman Patel.
Oh, that's the wonderful news that the weather has gotten too cold, but more people are lining up because availability of vaccine from 3 different vaccine manufacturer and provider, really. So it's exciting news, but let me tell you, I have found out something. I happened to visit the funeral home and I saw the mask over there. Shame on the people. They leave their mask in property like that, and I mean, it's terrible. And you go to the grocery store, just entrance to the grocery store, virus is not going away. It may stay another year in a smaller scale, and less infection we create, mutation occurs more. So always put your mask, safe distance. Please, not for you. Right now, more you take care of yourself and your family, you will get your freedom, whatever you want to do, faster, without any delay. So please continue to follow this thing even after you have a vaccination ready. So that's my little speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Patel. We'll go over to Councilwoman Roker.
Hey, man.
Councilwoman Roker, you're muted. If you can unmute yourself. Thank you. Perfect.
Tommy, you have to help me. Yeah.
I'll be right there, Alice.
That's when you know things are tough, Alice.
There you go. I just want to thank Vishnu because he does provide such really good information about the virus. Obviously, he is a scientist. But I want to help us remember the men and women who created the virus. And, I got my first shot yesterday. And what that means to me is that hopefully at some point we'll be able to, and I know we have to wear our mask and our glove and social distance for a while, but hopefully by maybe the fall, we can take advantage of some of the programs. And I'm sure everyone saw that we've hired a new arts and cultural committee, and just the interview with each one of them was totally exciting. I am looking so forward to being able to, maybe we can't shake hands or hug, but at least we could see one another face to face soon. And, I'm like one of those people that have the comorbidity. So while a lot of people can come out and socialize, I can't. And I look forward to the day that I can.
Thank you, Councilman Roker.
Mm-hmm.
Councilman Lachterman.
All right. Well, first I wanted to start by sending out some kudos to our police department. Over a 24-hour period, they had 3 calls with something that has been a problem during COVID, which is people with emotional distress. And in all 3 calls, everyone was able to, go home safe and sound, and great training and the professionalism and the empathy of our police department really is there. But, I wanted to just give a shout out. We had Officer Dougherty, Sergeant Woodard, Officer Champion, Detective Shanahan on one call. Then we had, Hannigan, Colkman, Sergeant Colkman, Schemlemer, and Shanahan. And then a third call was Hannigan again with Tillerstrand and Schemler again. So a great job, really looking out for our public and, putting your training to use and doing the right thing. So thank you. I'll also give a shout out to Officer Curtis. I saw another report about him helping an elderly person who had lost power at midnight last night, and really making sure that she was set up for success and felt safe and secure, because she called police because she didn't feel safe and secure, and he made sure everything was set, including having her phone charged and making sure she knew who to contact and if there were any issues. So great job, Dan, who's parents live around the corner from me, so I see him quite often. Then I just wanted to talk a little bit about the American Legion. Yesterday, I was at Yorktown Funeral Home for a final salute to a veteran that had passed away. And our American Legion goes there and does this ceremony called the final salute for any military person that passes away. And when I walked in, the conversation that they were having in the anteroom while they were waiting to go into the wake was about the response of our town for a GoFundMe for their boiler. And they were unbelievably shocked by the response, that they are almost at their goal in just 15 short days. They needed a boiler, as Councilman Diana could tell you. It was, probably about a week or two past where it should have been at the minimum, maybe even longer, because it was falling apart on them. They were able to raise the money pretty much through this GoFundMe, and it's just been great. They have some other capital improvements that need to happen. Our American Legion post is used by so many groups within our community, and for them it's essential. And they have not had the hall rentals to be able to support it, so it's available for other groups like their Boy Scout troops, different charitable organizations that go in there. So this really meant a lot. And they do have two other fundraisers coming up. One is actually right next to Town Hall this Saturday. They're doing a dine out and donate with Chef Rob on Wheels. I actually saw Legislator Smith said he would be there. So they'll hold you to that, Colin. And with that, Chef Rob is going to donate 10% of anything sold to the Legion. And you can actually, if you look on his website, there's a way to order for contact-free pickup. And you could just text in that order, and he will be able to help you out with that. And then on Sunday, March 14th, they're doing a corned beef and cabbage fundraiser dinner. It is a takeout pickup dinner. So it's priced at single portions and then families of 4. You can find out more on sal1009.org is their website. Or you could look them up on Facebook. The Sons of the American Legion will be running that, and that will once again bring money for the American Legion and other veteran services that they support within the town, whether it's through the Purple Hearts or the food pantry at the VA. So lots of different things there. And it's great when you see the people that have sacrificed for our country, that have served, and their heartfelt emotion at the support of our community. So, based on that, I thank everyone who has supported and plans on, and, please, show them the love. They deserve it. That's it. Thank you.
Councilman Lachman. Councilman Diana?
Thank you, Supervisor. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's staying warm this chilly day and evening. Once again, just to kind of echo Ed, I just want to thank everybody for their help with the American Legion. They really needed the help this time, and our community came through, as our community always does. Vishnu mentioned the masks and the gloves. They still are around. I don't know what people don't get. There's $1,000 fine out there if you're caught disposing of your gloves on the ground or your masks on the ground. Now that the snow is melting, you're seeing them even more and more, which is even more disturbing. I also want to thank all the folks out there on East Main Street who are abiding by the new stop signs by the corner of East Main and 132, and by Stony Street and East Main, both directions. I've had a lot of compliments, mostly or comments, I should say, mostly good about what people think about them being there. They think it was time to have it done, and I assure them that somewhere in the near future, we're most likely going to put a stoplight up there. So I said this is just a preemptive solution until we can get that done. I think we may have winter behind us. What does everybody think? Do we have winter
Not
behind
tonight.
us yet? Keep our fingers crossed. I know Dave probably has his fingers crossed because he hasn't moved since he's come on.
No, that's my I'm not afraid of winter picture.
Is that what it is?
That's it.
Okay. But even though the efforts of our highway department are out there, please remember, in the morning and in the evening, there may be ice on the roadways. Okay. So please, everybody be safe out there. Just that little, take off 5 miles an hour. It may save your life. Okay. That's all I got.
Thank you, Councilman.
May I say something?
Yes, Councilman Patel.
Somebody called me and I will never answer usually, but they say, I cannot hear you, and it was muted. How do we shut the, somebody mutes here or monitors or something? Or maybe I didn't push the right button or something. But let me just say something. I want to show you this picture, okay? Can you see it? Can you read it?
No.
If you know,
Back it up a little bit.
I'm gonna tell you, okay, really. This is the scientist who invented polio vaccine. And there is no person ever in the history of the mankind has done this one. That he did not patent his invention. He lost more than $8 billion worth of revenue, 8 billion. But he gave a free chance to have everybody who want to manufacture the vaccine, and everybody, the entire world benefited. And I would like to just honor him on behalf of the humanity.
Yes.
That he was the scientist who made it happen, really. And let me just read only his name, the Dr. John South, okay? I'm not going to say anything more than that. But these are the kind of people, they work for humanity, and we should honor people like this.
Yes.
Same like all the men and women, they serve selfless service, and all the people, doctors and nurses and everybody else, when you go there, just say thank you for your service. Absolutely. Because you make a difference in the life of the people, those who live healthy life, So thank you.
I agree 100%. If I could just quickly, as a reminder, there is a joint meeting on this Thursday at 7 p.m. Between the town board and the CCSE. That would be this Thursday, the 4th, March 4th at 7 p.m. This is, again, part of our compliance with EO 203, which was handed down by Governor Cuomo last spring. This is a report that was released for the public to read and comment on. So this is your opportunity to comment on the report that was released by the CCSE last month. I also want to also let everyone know, especially our seniors, we have continued to receive dozens, if not hundreds, of phone calls from seniors struggling with the making appointments for COVID. Tomorrow at noon, I'll be joined by our Director of Senior Services, Noreen O'Driscoll, as well as Lisa Epstein, who is a school nurse here in Yorktown over at the Mildred E. Strang Middle School. And they're going to be providing a tutorial for folks as to how to sign up for the vaccine using the state portal. So that's something that we're going to be taping, and we'll have that playing on the Government Access Channel to help educate our seniors on. And just quickly, if I could, just a quick update on the COVID situation. Again, we've more than half the numbers that we saw in January, which is good, but we still got a long ways to go because as others have already mentioned and to me, the January spike, which we knew was going to be bad because of the holidays and the winter, still in comparison to the spring, we have a ways to go for the active caseload in the town of Yorktown. But we've continued to see progress. Hotel workers are now eligible to be vaccinated. Our food pantry workers, and we've got our food security task force, which is doing great work in our community. But our food pantry workers are now eligible to be vaccinated. Also, this all comes from the state as a reminder. This is all policies that the state hands down to the county and then the county to the municipality. Movie theaters are going to be able to reopen at 25% starting March 5th. There will be a max of 50 people per theater. That's another new policy. Indoor amusement places are going to be able to reopen at 25% capacity starting March 26th, and outdoor amusement parks are going to be able to reopen at 33% starting on April 9th. And again, should any of our residents continue to struggle or have questions regarding the vaccination process, I urge you, please call please call Town Hall. You can call my office directly, 914-962-5722, extension 200. You can call the town clerk's office. They've been very helpful with our seniors, and you can of course call our Office of Senior Services directly. All three of our offices have been working together to help our seniors and our elderly in our community schedule their vaccination appointments. And we all understand it's been frustrating, but hopefully as supply continues to grow, and Johnson & Johnson was improved over the weekend, 4 million Johnson & Johnson vaccines were shipped on Monday. So as that supply continues to grow, we'll see more and more appointments open up. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our highway superintendent, Dave Paganelli, who's got his "I'm Not Afraid of Snow" face on. Dave?
I have my I'm not afraid of snow face on, yes. So I guess I don't have to tell everyone it's been a relatively active February weather-wise. March apparently is coming in like a lion. Last evening, we were out from 2 a.m. with multiple trees down, 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and an incredible amount of icing issues. I have, since last Thursday, been traveling our roads and making note of potholes. And we are currently out every day fixing potholes with our new hot box that we purchased last year, which allows us to use hot material. And we are trying to be very vigilant. We did notice that a couple of the issues we had last evening were directly related to residents that were putting their water onto town roads. I had the pleasure of, I was going out documenting a few. Traditionally, I would try to talk to the resident. I did run into a very nice resident today who came out, saw me videotaping his water pouring onto the road, and said, "Oh, I assume this is a problem." I said, "Yes, that's a problem because you're creating a dangerous situation for your neighbors." And rather than issue a notice of violation, I said, "Look, if you give me your word, you'll take care of this within a month, and stop that water from coming down your driveway across this road." And he couldn't have been nicer. He was very gracious and very accepting of his responsibility. Another shout out to another resident who sent me an email today indicating 6 streetlights that were out. And that's tremendously helpful for us because traditionally, other than snowstorms, highway is not out in the middle of the night to see that these lights aren't working. And I mean, he was so meticulous. He, the northeast corner of Gomer and London, and just it's really helpful for us. We get a purchase order in, we get the town electrician to go out there and fix it. So that's about it. So we're hoping that, like Tommy said, I think that winter may be the worst of it may be over. We're 12 days away from daylight savings time, which will be wonderful. That extra UV hour of UV every day will help with any, God willing, small storms that we may have. But please, as Councilman Diana said, very, very important that with this freeze thaw that will be occurring over the next week or two, you've got to be very careful, particularly those of you that go to work at the coldest time of the day. Traditionally is right before sunrise. So you want to make sure that if anything looks wet, just assume that it is ice. And if you do take that, drop down 5 miles an hour, you could save your life. And that was very good advice. And that's about it. So, I would like to really, really give a shout out to all the men and women who work for the town, not just highway, because during all these weather events that we've had, the highway department has the pleasure of working with all the other departments who fall under our umbrella, and they've just been fantastic. The men and women have, gone to extremes to make sure our roads were kept safe, in difficult situations. So I'm very proud of the work that everyone's done. So thank you.
Thank you.
And Dave, as I always ask you, what's the number for highway for everyone at home in case they need you?
Yes, 962-5781.
Perfect. Excellent. Keep up the good work.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. All right, we're going to go over to our reports from White Plains. We've got 2 guests with us, county legislators Vidak Ashi and Colin Smith, who represent Yorktown at the County Board of Legislators. Gentlemen, good evening. You're both on mute, so if you could unmute yourselves and feel free to provide us a report from the county.
Am I going first, Colin? Giving me the.
Gave you the thumbs up there, so you're on.
You go first, sir.
All right, thank you. Well, again, my name is Vidak Gashi. For those of you that don't know me, I'm the county legislator for the southern part of Yorktown. And I'd like to thank Supervisor Slater and the rest of the town board for inviting me here to present. Wanted to give, I guess, since the both of us are here and the night's going to be, threatens to be long, my report's going to be kind of quick. A lot of the work we do, well, right now it has to do with COVID and vaccine distribution. That's the biggest workload we have. We're getting a lot of requests. Obviously, there are more requests than vaccines going around. Supervisor Slater is well aware of our efforts continuing to make sure that we can find some outlets and ability to present to the senior communities within Yorktown and other communities within Yorktown. Before that, we were working on testing very hard, and now and before that, distributing PPEs. But obviously, a lot of that is figuring it out as we're going along. A lot of the work that we do at the county legislature is going to be done through our committees. The two committees I serve on, well, the committee I chair is the Committee on Public Works and Transportation, and I serve as the vice chair for the Budget Committee. Obviously, we passed the budget at the end of the year. We were very proud that it included, that it resulted in a $1 million decrease, which sounds like a lot, but is in fact a modest decrease. But given the circumstances of our, financial situation, economic situation, I find it commendable, especially since we were able to get that $1 million increase while trying to keep the services we provide stable and actually find some money for some of the programs and some of the issues that we need right now. We try to do this by being smart and efficient, share services where we can. Again, Supervisor Slater today, I think, delivered a presentation about a potential consolidation of water sewer districts.
Correct.
That won't cover everybody, and it won't cover the issue that we're going to talk about in Alex Mill soon, but because that's a municipal, rather than a county sewer. But there's a potential to find significant savings there by economies of scale and ability to access grants where we might not have otherwise. I think that's just one example of a way that we can save some money and actually get better service. That's our goal. That's what we're working to. But in addition to those sorts of programs, shared services and the like, we're also able to find some money for things that we find important or think are especially important at this time. With COVID, there's a lot of talk about essential workers, first responders, frontline workers. One of the things I found repeatedly from talking to unions and some of the other and actual first responders and representatives is that childcare is a huge problem. I'm a lawyer. I can work from home. I can do my legislating from here. Obviously, I'm at home now. But a lot of the grocery store workers, policemen, whomever, they don't have that luxury of working from home. So we were able to put some extra money for childcare there. I thought that was incredibly important. And then secondarily, people throughout Westchester are hurting, but I know that we have some significant need here in Yorktown. So I was proud that Legislator Colin Smith and I were able to work hard to make sure that we were able to bring back some of that money to some of the programs locally that do important work. We've already talked about the Alliance for Safe Kids, the important work it does for substance abuse and mental health for our children. And we were really proud to get some money there. And Colin, you made a mistake by letting me go first. I'm talking about these great, great programs. We were also able to find get some extra money for Hilltop Hanover Farm. Yorktown Heritage Preservation Commission, Yorktown 250 is an exciting program. We were able to support those, something there. And then my brother Vinny, and the amazing work that they do for homeless veterans. And I had the great pleasure of joining Paula and my brother Vinny delivering some furniture and home goods for somebody in need, a veteran in need. Lastly, and I'm sure there's other, and I might be forgetting something, but Support Connection, especially this Women's History Month. The work that Support Connection does for women with breast and ovarian cancer is fantastic. And while some organizations found that they actually had more money during this period of time, animal shelters, food pantries are doing great. Certain other organizations like Support Connection were really hit hard by their inability to raise funds, do fundraisers, and have the regular mechanisms. And the need actually increased over that time rather than decreased. So that's another really worthy organization here in Yorktown that we were able to support. And again, I'm extremely proud of that. The committee that I actually chair is the Committee on Public Works and Transportation, and that's a lot of the sewer, water sewer talk. We're working on the roads, county-owned roads anyway. And I'm sure Supervisor Slater has talked to you already about the utilizing the money allocable to Yorktown from the East of Hudson funds. Upwards of $10 million, my understanding is, to help work on the Alex Male Sewer District. And that's at the moment with the lawyers at the county who are going to be presenting an IMA, an intermunicipal agreement. And that's still some negotiation left, but I think, again, another great opportunity to improve our infrastructure here in Yorktown. And lastly, and I'm going longer than I expected to, I apologize.
Got all this stuff.
I know. And
there's more.
there is more. But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. Exactly.
Thank you.
Am I going to get a free set of Ginsu knives here in a minute?
You wait long. If you're able to stay awake through all of this, you might get 2 sets. I think you'll learn that.
I actually did want to comment on something that that Legislator Gashi said. You know, he was talking about my brother Vinny, and I also had that privilege of going on helping actually on Christmas Eve. We went down to the Bronx, but she recently just helped a veteran, and just to talk about the importance. It was a 1,000th veteran that was helped by New York City. It was $1,200 and change for her alone. And the mayor's office went down and they did a big thing, and they walked out with literally the person didn't even have an air mattress to sleep on. And she went out and bought an air mattress. And when Paula found out, they got down there for a delivery, and they brought furniture and all. And she put some before and after pictures up. But here's you know, unfortunately, a government trying to do good, but they get lost in seeing the whole picture. And we have a small group, an organization like my brother Vinny, that has, well, now I guess a little bit of guaranteed funding. So thank you, gentlemen, for that from the county. But they don't see guaranteed funding. They rely on the exceptional people who go out and donate for them, as Yorktown has supported them. And you know, they do this good that you know, people don't realize. So I'm just so happy you brought it up, Legislator Gashi, and thank you for that.
I think they're the very best we have in Yorktown. I mean, it's an example of what's possible.
Sure.
It's a small organization, but it's getting an international, not international, they may well be, but a national recognition. The work they're doing is fantastic. Paula is a force of nature. She's fantastic, but it's not only her. There's people, she was explaining to me how a woman does the packing of the
housewares, and then the food bags as well. Yeah, and but I will tell you something a lot of people don't know. The only reason that the charity has been able to stay afloat, and it's something that they're running into this month as well, with everything that's happened with COVID, is that Paula actually self-funded the charities. In other words, when she did not have the money to pay for storage for the supplies, she actually took loans against her own 401k or 403b, maybe it is, because she's works for an agency. But she took money from her own savings to support it, and took loans when she didn't have money in her account against her retirement. So it's just, like you said, a force of nature, but someone who really wants to make a difference and really cares, and it's just so great to see in our community.
Yeah, and I think an interesting thing is the delivery I did was for a Coast Guard veteran of over 20 years, and in Peekskill. So it's not only Yorktown; it's going throughout the region. There was a delivery I went on Saturday. There was a delivery on Sunday in Manhattan. She's helping veterans where the veterans are in need. And the funny thing is, we give Councilwoman Alice Roker a lot of credit for bringing a lot of these to my attention. We talk about what are the organizations in need, and honestly, there's a lot of need. And some of the need that you would think isn't actually a need. Food pantry is a fantastic example. You would think that they need help, but they're flush. Now, this one, Legislator Colin Smith, was the one who brought to my attention. He said, a great, so I went with him. I'm happy to be the first to speak and bring it up first. It was Legislator Colin Smith.
Well, if you're ever running out of ideas, you could talk to anyone on this screen. I know our clerk, all of the council people, our supervisor. We all work with different organizations and can all give you some ideas on where those needs are. And we all cross over in a lot of them too. So
I think better than trying to get up your own ideas is stealing the best ideas of others. So feel free to give me your best ideas. Always. I will never turn them down.
As Colin knows.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Legislator Gotcha, before we turn over to Colin, quick question for you. This is your committee. One of the things that the legislature, I believe, did pass with your help, strong help, was for the sewer programs. There's going to be county funds for individual homeowners to help them hook up. Can you describe that for us, if you can, briefly, and how that impacts, especially people like we're trying to get with the Halleck's Mill sewer extension?
Well, before, if Councilman Lachterman hadn't interrupted me.
I'm real good at that, so.
Trust me.
Honestly, way more interesting that we went down that conversation. But we did pass, and I think it's a great program. It's called the Septic Rehabilitation and Remediation Program. And this allows, now it's a relatively simple concept that we're going to get money for people that aren't hooked up to the sewers. Now, we're going to have both money to help people who want to be hooked up to the sewer system to help make that more financially palatable. And then also people who are within the watershed, and I think a lot of us here, myself, falls in that category, money to help remediate and fix that. There are hoops that you need to jump through. There's going to be a whole, I was just told, and actually it's funny you mentioned that one, because I was speaking to the planning department about that one, and there's a 3-party agreement that needs to be signed that's at the moment 55 pages and not done yet. But you want to make sure that people aren't taking advantage of the system. This is money that is going to be spent, and I think towards a good cause, but you want to make sure that it's being done right, being distributed right. For those of us, and myself included, I may end up being a person who tries to apply for these funds. I'm on septic, and I would love to be on sewer. This program, I think, is a step in the right direction, or an attempt to address that. Perfect.
And as we get more information especially with regards to the Halleck's Mill Sewer Extension Project that we continue to work with you and Legislator Smith and the county on. This was a piece of that puzzle that was really important from the agency standpoint, both DEP as well as the Department of Planning. That's going to help our neighbors who maybe, because again, as you've alluded to, the cost to hook up, it's not cheap. And so for those who are, have a financial situation that are not going to be able to necessarily do that, it will soften that blow, that financial blow, in a way that we didn't otherwise have at our disposal in years past. So I really do want to thank you and Legislator Smith and the county for moving that program forward.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you again for the opportunity to present. Pleasure to work with you all always, and I look forward to continuing.
Thank you.
Colin.
All right, Legislator Smith, you're up.
All right. So hopefully you can see me. The lighting in my studio isn't the best, but thanks for inviting us to join me this evening. I just want to sort of dovetail off of a couple of things that Legislator Gashi was talking about, particularly with respect to some of the monies we were able to find for our local, what we call them CBOs, community-based organizations, nonprofits. I think throughout the pandemic, one of the many lessons that we have learned is how vital many of these organizations are to the community. We talked about, whether you're talking about food pantries or an organization like My Brother Vinny, and the various organizations that are out there on the front line every day helping people in need. And as Councilman Lackerman pointed out, you have these organizations that do great work, and they do it on the backs of the people who run them. And Paula Paula, like you said, she's a force of nature. She does an amazing job. She spent some time with me earlier in the late last year, showing me the operation and explaining everything top to bottom. And so I was happy that we were able to get to get some county support for her. But I think moving forward, what you're likely to see, is, at least as far as I'm concerned, and I'm in a position to do so, is to be able to show more support for these very crucial organizations, particularly because we see now how vital they are to our communities. So Public Works is Vedat's domain, so I'm not going to touch on any of those things. But as many of you know, I am the chair of the Public Safety Committee, which right now is in the process of reviewing the recommendations from the County Police Reform and Reimagining Task Force, and we will conclude that process at the end of this month. And so we've been busy. The county released, the task force released a 178-page report, which I've read twice already. Kidding. And which is very comprehensive. I was a member of the task force as well. I was on one of the subcommittees, and so we're roiled in that process, as every municipality across the state currently is. And it's been a real eye-opening process in a lot of ways, especially for someone like myself as a layperson, to really get an inside view of what, in our case, what the Department of Public Safety for Westchester County does, and how they do it, and how well they do it in so many ways. I feel like I just need to touch briefly on something, which is that many of you, or some of you might know, a gentleman by the name of Bruce Bellum. He was a Westchester County police officer, retired after 30 years, rank of sergeant, I believe, and yes. Sadly, he passed away. I believe it was last night due to COVID. And I got to know Bruce because he was a Peekskill resident for many years. In fact, we lived in the same townhouse development for a number of years until just recently. And, Bruce was a very, he's very involved in the community. And, he and I spent, a good deal of time together in public settings. And to just hear, the news today was personally very sad, but also I just, my condolences and my sympathies go out to his family and his friends. And of course, we are very thankful for his service to the county. And we will be recognizing him formally at our next Board of Legislators meeting. So, but I just wanted to make reference to that. Unfortunately, we're still in the grips of this pandemic, and it's still out there. And I want to just before Councilwoman Roker gets a chance to bring it up, I'm going to head you off at the pass. I have not forgotten about our conversation regarding the mental health component of the police conversation that we were having. In fact, we will be on. It will be on. I want to say either. I'll have to check. Either Thursday or on Monday, the 8th. We'll be discussing, some of the recommendations in our committee that came down surrounding mental health, and particularly as it pertains to obviously to policing but that's not something that I forgot about. I know you called me once or twice about it. It's just I've been sort of inundated with some of this other stuff. So it's there. It's on my desk, and I think we need to continue to have that. We'll have that We'll continue that conversation about whether it's sort of breathing life into that into what was formerly being done in conjunction between the county and some of the municipalities, or finding maybe a new way to approach it. But obviously, one of the certainly obviously when we talk about police reform and reimagining, one of the key concerns is this issue of mental health. And having sat over the last several months in some of the committee meetings and listening to our law enforcement officials and professionals talk about the real challenges that they face when dealing with a situation where somebody might be mentally or emotionally unstable. We place a lot on our police officers, our frontline workers in that regard. Yeah. And if we're going to expect, better outcomes, then we have to, of course, make sure that we equip and support and furnish the resources and the tools necessary for that. So it's an ongoing conversation that we'll obviously continue to have. The Department of Public Safety has been just an excellent partner throughout this entire process, and I look forward to the coming days where we're able to really dive in more into the task force report recommendations. I invite any of you to the extent you have time and of course interest to check out either while we're streaming the committee meetings, or you can always catch them later on online when they get uploaded, because I think it's one of the other issues that we will be discussing. We discussed it somewhat in a previous meeting, but another conversation I know that we had regarding storage for body cam video. Yes. Which, is something that it's not the body. What we found is that it's not the cost of the body cameras that's right. Prohibitive. It's the cost of the storage. Right. Yep. And so it's an issue that the Board of Legislators is aware of and is trying to address. And, we're going to, certainly, I think we're going to be able to come up with some, hopefully, innovative ways to address that through, partnerships between the county and the, and municipalities that, the ones that are interested in, of course, availing themselves of that. So, but I mean, I aside from that, I think, and last thing I just want to touch on, Supervisor Slater and Town Council, I received, we were in receipt of your letter with respect to, vaccination sites.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've had this conversation a couple of times. I've had the conversation with some of, some of the other municipalities in my district. It's an ongoing conversation that we have with the county executive, in terms of, when, can we get more vaccination sites up and running? Where would be the best place to do that? We are limited in terms of our decision-making authority,
right.
As you know. It's something that is essentially controlled by the state. Of course, the county obviously does play a role in that, but we will continue to have that discussion. I'm hopeful now that we are at a point where it seems as it seems as though the vaccine supply is really about to ramp up. Then that will, sort of, mean that we need to open up more vaccination sites, especially if they're looking to hit the large numbers of people by the fall or late summer, early fall, or what have you. So we'll continue to have that conversation, and to the extent we're able to divert those resources or convince the state at least to to look not only to the southern part of the county but to the northern part as well. And they've been furnished with information. I know they've been offered, there's an armory in Peekskill that has been suggested, and a number of places, all over. And not to, denigrate or minimize, the importance of it here, but counties across the state are vying for the state to open up vaccination sites. So we'll continue that conversation and continue to work to try and get something as soon as we can up here in this area, so that we can begin to really dig into the population, especially the ones who aren't as mobile. Because for as many people that can get into a car and drive to Brooklyn, the Aqueduct,
right,
the White Plains, there's so many others that just they're not able to do that.
Yeah, and county legislator, that's the population that we've been struggling with the most. But I know that you and County Legislator Gashi and County Executive Latimer have been great partners for us in this effort. Just yesterday, Town Clerk Quast and I were with members of the health department looking at both a potential pop-up site and what we believe could be a really solid regional site. And so we toured both with folks from the health department, and we're keeping our fingers, our legs, our toes, our feet. We're keeping everything we can crossed. But as you said, and I recognize it, and I know that our colleagues recognize it on the town board, the state is the one that's ultimately going to determine where those are going to be allowed. And so as much as we have continued to advocate to the county on behalf of our community, but we're also advocating to the state. And again, with our town clerk, Diana Quast, we've been very aggressive and very vocal in that. And I know that you're doing all you can to help us in that endeavor. So I do appreciate it.
No, it's what we have to do, and we just have to continue to sort of, beat the pulpit on that until, until we get the results.
And I think and I'm confident that we're going to get there, to be honest. I really feel that. And as we said earlier, and we've been saying this for a while, as the vaccination supply grows, as you just also stated, we're going to have more places open up, and that includes more of our local pharmacies, more of these pop-up centers. Hopefully a regional for Northern Westchester. I know that many of the supervisors and mayors who I sit on conference calls with, especially in the northern part, have echoed this to I know you and to the state. But I believe we're all rowing in the same direction. It's just all predicated off of the vaccine supply. So. Again, thank you for your efforts on behalf of our community.
I just have one or two words for Colin and with that now the new kind of vaccine require less stringent in a lower, much higher temperature, and you can use in refrigerations what you have, so you'll be able to, distribute to the local, even CVS type or Acme or whatever, local hospital, something, or even doctor's office. Then it will move very, very fast, because now we are so fortunate that we have 3 vendors and, 3 different kinds. So people are really eager to receive it, and people are those who are in a service provider group. They are also very committed, and they are eager to help all the people, not some of the people. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councilman Patel, and you're absolutely right. And I'm glad we're in 2021 in terms of the advancements in medical science. And though it's not perfect, it is certainly light years ahead of where it once was. And right. The last thing I'll just touch on briefly, I'm sorry if I'm going a little long here, but I just think it's important to mention, as I'm sure you're all aware, and to the extent you have had an opportunity to sort of delve into this, the Housing Monitor released a report, within the last couple of months, with respect to the settlement that or consent decree had entered into with the county years ago. It was a favorable report and essentially states that Westchester, has complied with its obligations under the settlement for housing, affordable housing. That said, the monitor, of course, did note that there's still work to be done, which is something that we all know and are aware of. That was, the shortage of affordable housing in Westchester County was at what many would have considered a crisis level prior to COVID-19. We are now, well beyond crisis in terms of housing. As you all know, there's been a moratorium on evictions for the last several months, or essentially a moratorium on evictions for the better part of the last year. At some point, that is going to start to have a ripple effect back into the community, and it remains to be seen yet how that's going to shake out. Some communities are more insulated from that issue than others, clearly, but overall, in many parts of the county, housing is going to be a big problem. And it's one that we've been, at the county level, that we have been working on addressing for the last year. There's many organizations and people at many levels of government who are looking ahead to how we handle this once sort of that deluge of what essentially will be homelessness sort of hits us when things are back to whatever normal looks like. And so that is obviously something that we are very concerned about, and that I know every municipal official, to the extent it is an issue within their district, is concerned about, and it's something that we are continuing to work on and look at ways to to alleviate that crisis, now, as opposed to when it finally hits us. But so those are some of the broad strokes in terms of what we've been addressing that are related either to COVID and or to police reform, and it's an ongoing process, and we're happy to have partners like you to work with at the local level, because you guys are the ones that really make these decisions on the ground and keep things moving along. So thank you for allowing me to take more than my share of time in addressing it.
Legislator Smith, thank you. It's great to have you here. I did want to point out that from our coalition on community and community safety and engagement, one of the components of our report does mention the mobile crisis unit as part of that mental health issue. So that was an important point from the coalition standpoint, that the members, and we actually had a mental health expert as part of our coalition, that they also wanted to drive home. And so if we could be helpful in that endeavor, to the point that Councilwoman Roker made, and when we met virtually with the chief, and I know that he would be more than happy, and I would be more than happy, and I think our board would be more than happy to offer our assistance and insight in our coalition's insight in regards to that mobile crisis unit and how beneficial that has been in the past for the town of Yorktown and our police department.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think once we get past that April 1 deadline and everything is in and submitted, and we can sort of say, whew, because nobody wants a monitor sitting in the police department from the AG's office directing, the completion of this report. We will then be at a point where we can start to think about how we're going to implement some of these suggestions, revive, things which, worked well in the past and for one reason or another are no longer operating. We got to work it out first, but, we will have that conversation and figure out how we can work together to meet that need, whether it's through, reviving this, the mobile crisis unit or whatever that looks like. Absolutely.
Yep. Thank you. We appreciate it.
Colin, I want to say thank you for mentioning Bruce. He and I worked together for many, many years. And it was a very big shock when I heard last night that he had passed. And I just want to say thank you for mentioning him in your statements. And just on another note with the affordable housing, do you have, if I reach out to you offline, can I get a list of the individual townships that have affordable housing and the number of units that they have in their individual towns? If you have that.
I will. Yeah, I will get you whatever I can on that. I'm pretty sure that we have that information. I'm not quite sure in the form, what format it looks like, but I will get you whatever information we can on that. Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
And my condolences on your loss. I was speaking earlier today with Chief Christopher Calabrese from Westchester County, also was a good friend of Sergeant Bellams, and I just know him, more as an acquaintance over the last few years, and I was stunned by the news. So
yeah, we came up through the ranks together. It was sad. Okay, thank you though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, County Legislator Smith and County Legislator Gashi, thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing the ongoings of county government and all the good work that you're doing on behalf of the residents of Yorktown. We appreciate your partnership. Thank you.
Thank you all, and have a nice evening. And Councilman Lackerman, I'll see you at some point on Saturday.
See you then. Thanks.
All right.
Take care.
We're both around. I live here.
Yeah.
Like a mustache, you look like a prince. Austrian prince, but that I always say that.
I got it. Yeah, close. I look like an
We'll see you soon.
Thank you guys.
Bye everyone.
Take care. Have a good night. And we'll move on with our agenda tonight, where March is Women's History Month, and we have a proclamation that we will pass. I'm happy to read it. Or Councilman Roker, would you like to read it?
Sure. Whereas March stands as Women's History Month and March 8th recognized as International Women's Day, whereas the town of Yorktown recognizes and acknowledges the countless women who have contributed to the advancement of our culture through a multitude of roles within society. And whereas Women's History Month gives our community time to reflect on the struggles and triumphs of women throughout our national society. And whereas New York State and its citizens have a long and proven history of embracing the unlimited potential of women in our society, including holding the first women's right convention in 1848 at Seneca Falls, guaranteeing the right to vote in 1917, which was 3 years before the ratification of the 19th Amendment. Electing the first African American woman to Congress in 1968 through the appointment of the first Hispanic justice to the United States Supreme Court in 2009, and through the appointment of the first woman to serve as Attorney General of the state of New York in 2015, who was then succeeded by the first African American woman elected to the office of New York State Attorney General in 2018. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Yorktown recognizes March as Women's History Month. Be it further resolved, the town of Yorktown reaffirms itself as a community of hope, generosity, acceptance to everyone, regardless of gender, religion, race, national origin, ethnicity, culture, or orientation. Motion.
We have a motion. I'll second. All in favor?
Second. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Proclamation passed. Thank you all. We'll now go over to John McMullen, our Poet Laureate. John?
Just over a year ago, we were attacked by an invisible enemy that has now taken 500,000 lives. You heard right, 500,000 lives. Zoom and Amazon have kept us going, and now we have vaccines, but it's a different world. We have jobs lost, business closed, massive government programs, and an uncertain future. Can we overcome all this? Absolutely. But it will take all of us, individuals, medical and science personnel, business, government working together. It will not be for the faint of heart, but we can do it.
Amen.
Thank you.
John, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So
We'll move to courtesy of the floor. And I want to remind those participating that there is a 3-minute limit on courtesy of the floor. Actually, our town clerk, Diana Quast, has a timer now up on her screen, so you can watch the countdown as you present to the board. And we'll turn it over to Diana Quast, who can let us know who will be speaking tonight.
Our first person will be Elise, and she should be signing on right now.
Okay. Good evening, Elise. How are you?
Yeah, hi. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Elise. How are you?
Hi, fine. Elise Graham. Thanks again for the chance to address the board, and I will be really brief. I hope that you'll remember my question and answer it when you're addressing the courtesy of the floor questions and comments. At the last courtesy of the floor 2 weeks ago, I addressed the board to ask one question, and that is, why does this board think the Unicorn Project at Soundview, a property that, because of its unique and historical status, should demand the most rigorous scrutiny in terms of development, be subject to the much less demanding criteria of development in the overlay zone? And that's it. That's my question. I look forward to hearing the responses from the entire board. And I thank you for considering the question and answering it tonight. And I'm going to leave the Zoom because I prefer to watch this on the television, but I'm here and I'm listening.
Okay.
And looking forward to hearing your answer to the question. Thanks.
Thank you, Elise.
Next, we have Jerry.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Hi, Jerry. Can you give us your first and last name, please?
Yeah, it's Jerry LaBarbera.
Great. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Please continue.
Sure. I wanted to start out by telling a little bit about myself. My name's Jerry. I'm 36 years old. I lived in Westchester my entire life. I have a family of 4, and we all love riding off-road vehicles. That's primarily what I'm going to be talking about today. I have 2 sons, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, who also love this sport just as much as I do. I started riding off-road vehicles at 11 years old, and it's always been a really big part of my life growing up. Unfortunately, it's come with a lot of stigma attached to it, which presents itself because people only see the negatives or what they read about it on the news about the sport. They don't care to see the other side of it, which is a fun family-oriented hobby more than anything else. There's a lot of misconceptions or lies that are spread because it's easy to get away with a lie if nobody's there to tell the other side. So representing that other side is one of the reasons I'm here tonight. Lies like speeding on the local trails here. Anyone who's been on these trails knows the width and the condition of them. The trails are about 60 to 80 inches wide at most points, and there's sharp rocks and sticks on the edges protruding out. Nobody's speeding back there at unsafe speeds because they put their own lives in danger just as much as anyone else's. The riding that happens back there is taking place between 10 to 20 miles an hour maximum, and we know this because we actually have speedometers, unlike others who are trying to judge someone's speed with their eyes, which are already clouded from misjudgment. Safety is another lie, Reed. I encourage anyone to go back there and see the gear that people are wearing. Everyone's wearing helmets, boots, goggles, gloves, countless other attire, because again, nobody wants to get hurt, and they don't want to hurt anyone else. A final lie here is that these vehicles are noisy. Noise was more of an issue in the sport back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s because there was people that had two-stroke engines, and they were much louder than the four-stroke engines made today. They still make two-strokes, but for the riding that happens in those back trails that we have here locally, a two-stroke engine just is not ideal. Two-strokes are primarily used on racetracks now, and most four-wheelers, ATVs, and pretty much all of UTVs don't even come in two-stroke versions. The four-strokes are quieter, and they're built for navigating tight terrain where you need like more low-speed torque to get around, not high-speed horsepower. So these lies that circle around the sport are the reason that's so misunderstood by New York for a long time. We've had other states like Vermont, Pennsylvania, and they see how we should be approaching this, and you should look at their safety statistics as well. Since these states are more open to the hobby, I encourage anyone to travel to any like open track event or off-road park, and you'll see nothing but families. Families and friends that are simply out to ride trails and have fun in a safe way together. So you're probably asking yourself, like, why don't we go there, right? The answer is we do, but unfortunately they're overwhelmingly in Pennsylvania and 4+ hours away, and it's just difficult to take these vehicles and load them up and spend half the day driving down the highway to the destination. It's fun, but it's just not convenient.
Gary, your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, can I just finish up?
Your chat, please.
Yeah, Westchester is a great place to live for multiple reasons, but it highlights its residents' love for outdoor activities, and this includes, it's not limited to hiking, bicycle riding, jogging, swimming, fishing, hunting, and this also includes off-road vehicles. Basically, we're not looking to take the trails away from everyone. All we're doing is looking for fair use of them and just a place to ride. How can this be done? There's a couple ways. We can separate the trails and designate certain trails for riding off-road vehicles, and we could share them. Simply post about which trails are shared, and along with the directional arrows, we can post speed limits. We can self-manage the trails and help keep it clear.
I'm sorry, Jerry, if you can just wrap up. You're well over your 3 minutes.
Okay, sorry. So, yeah, I mean, all we're doing is looking for a place to ride safely. And, with these measures, I just feel like we could do it and share the land. Even if we don't agree on how we enjoy it, we could all enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you, Jerry. We appreciate that. Good points. Thank you.
Next, we have Diego.
Evening, Diego.
Good evening, Supervisor Slater. Good evening, Board. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight and for all that you do for our community. I thought that COVID tutorial is outstanding, so thank you again for that. 4 weeks ago, I came on during a courtesy of the floor to discuss some of the major issues and concerns I had with Underhill Farms development. At a very minimum, I expected to hear that the safety of my family and those of my community would be taken into account, and that there would be a continuation of the discussion and answers to the questions. I unfortunately listened on and heard that fast tracking through this overlay district is needed for the board to do their job. I know I must be wrong in saying this, but based off of what I heard, it feels like helping buildings go up is a larger and higher job priority than the health of my children and the unencumbered enjoyment of the residents in our community. I would say that community outreach and impact mitigation is a part of any good development program. And I do not think that a developer should be putting the burden on Yorktown residents to do all the communicating and planning. I found myself infuriated when I read in the Yorktown News that Unicorn solution to traffic is that they could change the timing of a light. It's clear to me that they do not understand our neighborhoods and frankly do not care to. It will be up to this board to make sure that the right resolution is reached here and work on behalf of Yorktown families. Hope you could forgive some of my frustrations as I am advocating on behalf of my family. If there's anything that I could do to help in these efforts and make sure that the right fit for this property and for Yorktown as a whole is reached, I'd be more than happy to make myself available and ensure that everyone is brought to the table and we can come up with the right solution as quickly as possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Diego.
Next, we have Lenny Gilbert.
Okay, Mr. Gilbert, good evening.
Hey, Lenny.
Good evening. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Supervisor Slater and the town board. I want to thank you, Supervisor Slater, for following through on an issue that I've been working on while I was supervisor in the town, getting that fair treatment by the Joint Waterworks on that pipe on Route 35. We talked about it when we transitioned, and I'm glad, very, very glad you followed through. I expected you to, but I'm very happy. You stated it should have been done years ago. That's true, but not necessarily at the inception because Somers wasn't part of the waterworks at that time. So we were using the pipe into the Amawak Dam, but once Somers became part of the waterworks, you're absolutely right. We had been treated equitably, and I'm glad that you followed through. My administration and staff found the incongruity along with Ken Rundle, and we indicated that it needed to be addressed, and we did get some pushback, and I'm glad that you again were persistent. I'm also glad that you are working and continuing to cut through the red tape and hearing with the Doc Gashi and Colin Smith, our county leaders, that they're working for the money for the Yorktown Sewer Project. I'm thrilled. We had been working on that county agreement for quite some time, and I'm glad you're again crossing the finish line, hopefully. And I also want to say thank you. I've been watching this. What I didn't see tonight, but I wanted to thank you again for promoting the farms of our town. Specifically this week, you talked about Bright Hearts with Greg Brown about the seasonal tapping for the production of syrup, the fact that we're unique and we have the largest syrup producing facility in the southern part of the state. And it's a great job. It's a great job promoting our town. And again, I want to thank you all, and I hope everyone has a safe and warm evening. So thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Mr. Gilbert.
Next is Scott.
Okay. Scott, can you give us your first and last name, please?
Yeah, hi guys. My name is Scott Semiani. How you doing, Mr. Supervisor? I appreciate this.
I'm sorry, Scott, could you spell your last name for me?
There's Samoyedny.
Thank you. Please, go ahead.
All right, sorry. Yeah, some of you know me personally. Some I've only talked on the phone. But I'm talking tonight about the ATV riding in the area. I've been riding ATVs myself and watercraft since I could remember, since I was a child myself. Like my other friends, and they say there's absolutely nothing to do around this area for teenagers or young adults inside the woods or outside the woods. There's really nothing to do around this area. And, I have a son and a daughter who are 8 and 10, and they love riding in the woods as well. And I would rather them have in the woods riding with myself than doing drugs or something else that could possibly turn in this area. We've seen that more than case in the area here. And, for the people that are hiking back there and riding their bicycles, they are doing extreme biking as well. And I know their bikes cost a lot of money as well. And, they're complaining that we're damaging the stuff back there. And, they're woods and there are loose rocks back there, dirt and mud, regardless if we're back there or not. There's a beautiful paved walkway for anybody that wants to have a nice leisure hike or a bike ride. And we know we're not going 50 miles an hour on these paved surfaces or in the woods like some people claim that we're doing. All right. There are a handful of people that just don't like anybody doing anything different than what we're used to doing when they were children themselves. You know, these machines are not cheap that we ride, and we're not a bunch of little kids that are disrespecting anything back there. And like I said before in an article that someone might have read as well, that if I see anybody disrespecting our town fields or anything, I'd be the first one to call the police on them as well, because my family uses those fields as well, and I know they cost a lot of money. And I just want to say that, you know, people saying they're doing donuts on the streets in the snowy time, they're not doing any damage to any property if it's on blacktop. So if that's happening, I can't help that, and that's not me. But some people might say the vehicles must be registered and insured, and I 100% agree with that. That's the same thing that goes for anybody that drives any motor vehicles on the streets as well. There are a lot of people that drive around non-registered, non-insured vehicles, and there are even some people that drive around without a driver's license. So they're taking a chance as well. You know, again, this board really needs to think about what kind of law they're thinking about trying to implement, because I really just think you're going to waste your time with this. You know, that's up to you what you want to do. You know, maybe you're trying to think about implementing a fee or a sticker that we can put on our bikes once a year. I think that's a good idea, but then you're going to have to, you know, give everybody the same opportunity, because that's going to be like discriminating us against using our public property, because we all pay taxes back there as well. So if anybody's on a bicycle or hiking, they should pay a fee as well. And we're not damaging anything back there as per saying, tearing anything up. But, you know, it goes in the same thing as saying that people that walk their dogs back there. And I've seen plenty of people back there walking their dogs loosely or on their leash, and they let their dogs just go to the bathroom back there and then just let it be. All right. And that's littering. And there's a code for that. So if you're going to attack one group of us, you need to attack everybody. I'm just saying that we're not disrespecting anything back there. All right. And, you know, we just want to enjoy ourselves back there. Life is too short. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Next is Jane Daniels.
Okay. Good evening, Jane. Jane? Jane, you're... Jane? Jane Daniels, we can see you. Jane, you want to go on to the next one, maybe?
What's going on, Ken?
Jane, we can see her. I guess her volume's down, so she doesn't realize that we're...
Oh, okay.
Well, maybe now. Jane?
Jane, you're up.
Here she comes. Jane, you're up. Jane, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi there.
Hey, Jane.
Okay. All right. I'm Jane Daniels. I live here in Yorktown and have lived here since 1970. A lot of you know who I am. Those who I've never met, I'm the volunteer supervisor for trails in Yorktown for the New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, which was founded in 1920. So they've been around quite a bit. My responsibilities include overseeing trail maintenance for the town-owned properties, FDR State Park and Hilltop Hanover Farm. I also have projects to improve trails, including mentoring Eagle projects. I'd like you to know that from 2009 to 2017, I was a delegate to the New York State Trails Council and chair from 2012 to 2017. The delegate to the State Trails Council represents a user group, and I'd like to let the people who are ATVers know that motorized users are included in that group, and includes four-wheel drive, ATV, and off-road motorcycling. You mentioned that you want to use the trails in our parks responsibly. I've got news for you. New York state law says, no, you cannot operate motorized vehicles in the park. So as much as you'd like to see the town change their law, the town is not able to undercut what the state law is. Pardon? Okay. I would like also to tell you that there are rogue people in every user group. Hikers have them. The hikers might litter. They might establish unofficial trails. They'll shortcut switchbacks. But many of the people who use the trails decide they want to help make sure the trails are maintained and use them wisely. I'd like to address the speed issue. I beg to differ with you that people are going slow on the trails. Yes, we don't have a speedometer, but my husband and I have been out working on the trails, and we see kids on dirt bikes speeding past. We've had quads speed past us. We've had motorcycles speed past us. Total disregard for someone who was on the trail. If you ATV riders claim you're the good guys, and I understand you want to be able to take your family out and enjoy riding, you've got to work on the bad behavior of some of your people. A lot of us are aware there's bad behavior, and I kind of joked to my husband this evening, well, the mountain bikers have gotten their act together, but I don't know how we're going to get the equestrians to change the behavior of the horses who poop on the trail and who likes to step in whose horse poop. So try to, if you want to work with getting a place to ride that's close by, you simply have to find someplace, because the public lands are not an area where you can ride according to New York state law. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Next is Jane Schneider.
Okay. Ms. Schneider, how are you? Ms. Schneider, you're muted. I'm sorry. If you can unmute yourself. No, it's okay. I can read lips slightly. I read. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jane Schneider. I'm a 49-year resident of Yorktown. Like so many other Yorktown residents, I signed the online petition urging you to remove the Soundview property from the proposed Yorktown Heights Overlay District. Many of the people who signed this took the time to share their concerns in the petition's optional comment section. The comments run the gambit from protecting the site's history to concerns about traffic, the need to fill up our vacant stores before cutting down trees to make way for more new development, density, and the inappropriateness of including the Soundview property in the overlay zone. The overlay district, here are some of the comments. The overlay district plan is intended to revitalize vacant storefronts and shopping centers in our hamlets. This property does not fit that category. The Soundview property should go through the same rezoning process all developers go through, and kept out of the proposed district overlay. This is a unique property that calls for careful consideration to the environment, infrastructure, traffic, and the schools. Don't be fooled by special treatment. This developer should go through the same vetting process as the Summit and the Wyant. I grew up in Yorktown Heights, and it had a charm and beauty that was unique. Why do you let greedy people ruin its uniqueness? There are many places that are already refurbished and put to use that stand empty. Work with what is already there, and don't continue to ruin the charm and beauty that made Yorktown unique. The continual alteration of the village of Yorktown Heights in the past through zoning manipulation has led to horrendous results. Recall the famous Lake Caldor in the 80s because of improper zoning modification to what was then wetlands. That brought us the current vacant Kmart and Food Emporium buildings. Just keep blowing up history and there won't be any. This property is Yorktown. Without the Underhill family who cultivated this land, Yorktown may never have become the place that we live in today. 200 plus years of Yorktown's history should be treated with more reverence than it's being shown by the developer and our town leaders. Instead of demolishing a historic property on an extremely busy street, developers should look into reviving the many empty storefronts in our community. While this is exactly the right kind of development for the Heights, it's the wrong place for it. While we need mixed-use development to increase the density of the hamlet, all those mostly empty car parks, and make it the walkable kind of place that everyone says they want, if we also leach out the historic rural character that this building and its adjacent barns provide, we risk just creating a kind of soulless development that typifies so much of America. I'm signing in order to preserve the one-family zoning that currently exists. This is a historic, beautiful property which should have been landmarked. Rather see Green Plaza be updated as proposed in a historic property, Both projects is too much development in such a small place. Traffic will be a nightmare. Problems in developing this piece of property include impossible traffic issues, water, sewer, and drainage issues, zoning issues, noise issues, school crowding, and the additional strain on emergency responders.
Jane, your time's up.
Development and the rezoning makes this possible, does not help our town in any way. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You got it in.
Next is Walt Daniels.
Okay, Mr. Daniels.
You will.
How are you, Mr. Daniels? Oh, I'm sorry. You just need to unmute yourself.
Okay, finally.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Walt Daniels. I live at 2802 Deer Street, Mohegan Lake, and I've lived here since '68. As many of you know, I have a long-term relationship with lots of town committees, but in this matter, I'm representing myself. I'm not representing other committees. Jane and I have been working with the Town Recreation Commission for trying to help them cut down on some of the damage being done to the parks. So we started the discussion of how to fix this town law. ATVs have been prohibited on public lands, in fact, most lands in New York State since before 1978. Yorktown's current law reflects what was in the state law in 1978 and was before registration was required. I don't know when the registration requirement went into state law, but Yorktown's town law must be modified to conform to state law. It may not be less stringent than state law, but it can have additional requirements such as increased penalties. In spite of the defects in town law, the town can enforce based on state laws. So the suggestions of others that they can ride there is just plain false. It is against the state law, and independent of what the town law ever says. The town law cannot be fixed in that respect. You have to go to the state to get that fixed. I'm not a lawyer, but the following arguments will not get you off the hook. Ignorance of the law, or that prior law does not get you a pass on current legislation. Not being caught does not protect you from being caught. This conversation I'm having tonight is part of a campaign to reduce ATV damage in our parks. It is about educating what the law requires and what penalties are for disobeying the law. It's particularly aimed at parents who buy ATVs for their kids and then don't supervise them. So just a summary of what state law actually says. ATVs are not allowed on any land without written permission of the landowner. ATVs are not allowed on public roads. ATVs must be registered every year and show the registration on their vehicle. In actual fact, I've seen maybe a registration plate on one or two of the vehicles that I have been able to get close enough to, but not the majority of them do not show the registration if they have it. You must be insured for liability and property damage and have evidence of that if anybody is injured or the police are coming and arrest you. So you have to have it with you.
Walt, your time's up.
Okay. So the opposing state law does not abrogate state law. No matter what happens to town law, you're still guilty of violating state law. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Walt.
Thanks, Walt.
Next, we have John Flynn.
Great. Good evening, Mr. Flynn. Mr. Flynn, if you can unmute yourself. If you can unmute yourself, sir.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, good evening, Supervisor Slater and members of the town board. I'm here tonight to talk about Unfortunately, not anything as exciting as hiking or ATVs. I'm just going to take you back to the overlay zones again, my pet hobby horse. And there's something I want to talk about the overlay zones that I think the focus has been on the Soundview property, but I think this has an effect throughout Yorktown and affects all residential property owners in Yorktown. And that is that that overlay zones, I think, will make zoning less predictable for people in neighborhoods that surround the overlay districts, wherever they are, any place in Yorktown. Why is predictability important in zoning? Well, that's one of the key elements of zoning, is so that you know what you can build on your property, and also you know what can be built in property throughout the town. And overlay zones, we've heard a lot about that they increase the flexibility for developers and perhaps lead to economic development by giving them greater flexibility. And I served on the zoning board for 2 terms, and I know all about flexibility needs in land development. But the predictability is also important, and you have to strike a balance between the two. You can't have both predictability and flexibility. You have to balance them off, where they work against each other. And I would caution you that the proposed overlay district is basically throwing that balance off and taking away the predictability for Yorktown homeowners. I'll give you an example. Let's say hypothetically you're a new homeowner. You bought a home in the last few years on Allen Avenue or Glenrock Street, and you did your homework before you bought, just like real estate attorneys advise you to do. You looked at the town zoning map. You really went into the weeds, and you looked at the comprehensive plan, and you saw that all the surrounding property was zoned residential, and that the comp plan said that it was projected that it would stay that way. Now, if you go and put an overlay district on, include Soundview in the overlay district, all that goes out the window for that property owner. There's no predictability. They suddenly the developer can come in with a 50-foot high, apartment building, commercial uses, and lots of traffic. That's what I mean when I say that overlay districts will remove the predictability of zoning for neighborhoods in Yorktown. And the reason I say it's all throughout Yorktown is because it gives a developer an incentive to look for other places for overlay zones. Any place that has a good access to a highway, high traffic flow, the developers they can be the greatest developers in the world, but they'll have a financial incentive to come in to you and petition you for an overlay district, because it's much cheaper to buy residential land than it is to buy land that's already zoned for commercial or multifamily uses.
John, your time's up.
I have for you, just to wrap up here, I just want to ask you how, as you put this overlay zone ordinance together, how are you going to provide flexibility for homeowners in Yorktown?
Thank you, Mr. Flynn.
Thank you.
Next, we have Patricia Sullivan Rothberg.
Good evening, Patricia Sullivan Rothberg, 16-year resident. Hi. Hi. It seems the byproduct of last week's town board work session seems pretty clear that the town board is basically insisting on pushing through the district overlay using a resolution to potentially avoid a public hearing, to essentially, as Mr. Tegeter pointed out, rezone the Soundview property. I have to ask for whose benefit, because it's certainly not for the benefit of the hundreds and hundreds of people that have signed the petition asking the town to remove the Soundview property from the overlay. Many residents want their voices heard and expect a public hearing. I hope the town board is not foolish enough to continue down the path of a resolution and shut out residents. of this process by not having a public hearing. I have been to courtesy of the floor multiple times these past few months to ask questions that have still remained unanswered. Many residents have asked, so I'll ask them again, how can a project of this magnitude and density proposed for a property so prominent elicit not one single critical question from the town board, the supervisor, or the town planner? Can the supervisor give us a detailed explanation as to how the Underhill Farm will benefit the residents who are deeply concerned that this overlay puts the developer in the front seat and the town in the back seat? Can the town board please ask Unicorn to provide publicly accessible written proof of Mr. Galero's claim that the Underhill Farm development will offset the tax base by $1 million? A statement made with no substantive evidence and accepted by all of you without question. When will the town board ask these tough questions of Unicorn? After adopting the overlay? It might be too late then. The town will, this is another question. How will the town benefit from 20,000 square foot of additional retail commercial space when we have other developers, such as the Kmart developer, talking about the Amazon effect and shrinking their retail capacity? Add to that our empty storefronts. Do we need 20,000 more additional square footage of potentially empty retail? Let's remember Caremark building is not yet filled to capacity. Lastly, all of this can easily be rectified if Ms. Galero does exactly what he said he would do during a town board work session. He said he would be open to filing for a rezoning, and that's exactly what the people want who signed this petition, a traditional rezoning process for the Soundview property. And when can we get answers to the questions we've been asking week after week? Thank you.
Thank you, Trish.
Thank you, Trish.
Very much.
Next is Susan.
Ms. Siegel, good evening. Ms. Siegel, if you can unmute yourself, then we can begin. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Ken. All right, we'll get this straight by the time COVID ends. Hopefully sooner. This is the fourth time I've spoken at the courtesy about the Unicorn plan for Soundview, and it's the fourth time the board has refused to answer my very simple and basic question, which is, why are you resisting taking Soundview out of the overlay district? Why aren't you treating the Unicorn plan for what it is, a rezoning? So let me ask my question again. Maybe I'll be lucky this time and I'll get an answer instead of my comments being called insulting and nefarious. And if any member of the board does answer my question, please don't insult the intelligence of Yorktown residents by insisting that the overlay designation is necessary in order to revitalize the Yorktown Heights business hamlet. With so many existing vacancies, do you really believe that the business area needs more commercial space? The only thing that the Soundview overlay plan will revitalize is Unicorn's bank account. Don't insult our intelligence by continuing to tell us that including the Soundview property in the overlay district is furthering the goals of the comp plan, when you know that the comp plan never suggested that the Yorktown Heights hamlet be considered as an overlay district, or that it considered the Soundview property as part of the Yorktown business hamlet. Don't insult our intelligence by trying to convince us that the overlay designation is needed in order for the town to receive some benefits. You know that's not true. Keeping Soundview in the overlay district benefits Unicorn, not the town or its residents. And please don't insult our intelligence by trying to convince us that the Soundview property will continue to be zoned for 1 acre single family houses after you've given permission for 165 residential units and 20,000 square feet of commercial space. Once you've done that, you've effectively rezoned the property, if not in law, then certainly in practice. In fact, as mentioned before, your own planning director acknowledged last week that by including the Soundview property in the overlay zone, you have rezoned the property. So please, it's time you are honest with us about why you're so determined to keep the Soundview property in the overlay zone. Be honest. The overlay designation is for Unicorn's benefit, not for the town's benefit. which leads me to one final question. Whose interests were you elected to protect and promote? The interests of the town and its 36,000 residents, or the interests of a specific developer? I look forward to your answering my question, and in case you forgot the question, I'll repeat it. Why are you resisting taking Soundview out of the overlay zone? Why aren't you treating the Unicorn Plan for what it is, a rezoning? And now I'd like to speak just as an individual and not part of the committee for a Soundview plan, to ask you about the
Your time's up.
What's the status of the planning board's request to be able to tape its work sessions and also to put the information in its meeting packet online? That was done about a month ago, and a work session has gone by without being taped, and we would like to see a resolution. There's $16 million in the general fund, so money cannot be.
Your time's up.
Cannot be a reason. Other people have spoken, so I'd just like to add that. And it doesn't have to be in the town budget for 2021 to be.
Your time is up. Thank you very much.
Next is Sarah Wilson.
Hi, Supervisor Slater and members of the town board. The last time I was at courtesy of the floor was January 26th, and I was speaking about Soundview at that time. And when I did, I mentioned the Sesame Street song, one of these things is not like the other. And, I still don't understand why Soundview property is being included in the Design District Overlay Zone. I understand the DDOC concept. I think it's a good one. I'm supportive of it. And it'll help facilitate, hopefully the redevelopment of much of our commercial space. But the Soundview property is not an already zoned commercial space. It's not in need of rehabilitation the way, Yorktown Green or the Roma building or, any of these other commercial properties is. It's not Commerce Street or Front Street or, one of these commercial areas. So I really think that because of the unique nature of the property, both historical and the fact that it's not a commercial property now, that it should be excluded from the zone, and the determination of how it should be developed, because it clearly will be developed, but how it should be developed should be in the hands of, you, our elected officials, the town board. And as you've been doing over these months, listening to the developer, listening to the planning board, listening to the neighbors, listening to the residents, and ultimately giving this a public hearing so that the right and informed decisions can be made about how best this property can be developed for the benefit of everybody, all the stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
That's all that I have. Everyone has spoken at least one time.
Okay. We have a motion to close, courtesy of the floor.
So moved.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Courtesy is closed. Comments from the board?
Matt, if I could start with a couple of things. One is that, I think Diego made a comment about the traffic. I think that the plan had a little more than just the timing of the light, but it was a stage plan. I remember the wall being moved back and an extra lanes being added, turning lanes. So that might be something there to go back and watch, Diego. And I'm sure that we can try to get some more information on that. I also, there seems to be a lot of misinformation that approving the overlay district is not approving any plan, even if it is included or not included. No plan is being approved. Just the overlay districts as we go into that. Any proposal that comes in has to go through the full vetting process, and there seems to be a lot of confusion into that. A lot of people saying, "Hey, this is going to bypass everything." It doesn't. The other things that I made a couple of notes on. Well, there was, I think it was Mr. Flynn spoke about the predictability of the neighborhoods, and when you look at the zoning there, if you look at the north and look at the south, you have Beaver Ridge, and then you have the Rochambeau apartments right there to the south. So that, that area is very much within that type of development. And there was a lot of insinuation that everything is for the developer. And I've spoken to quite a few people that have spoken about wanting to downsize and say, hey, you know what? I don't want a house, but I want to stay in Yorktown. And condos, co-ops, that's been a big thing, especially in our senior community. So, it's a little disingenuous to say that everyone in Yorktown is against it. Matter of fact, I recall reading quite a few letters in the paper. And one thing that, trying to get some of the comments and see what was happening, I went into the petition and I was reading some of the reasons people were signing. And I see he's still on screen. Mr. Daniels had some interesting comments, which were, hey, let's see where this project goes, because, he has a lot of trust in what our planning department does. Just because there is a proposal for 164, I think it is, units, does not mean that the planning board comes back and says, or any of the boards come back and say, hey, this is a great idea. It still goes through the process, it still is looked at, and it still needs to be vetted, approved, have public hearings, and really be part of an inclusive project here. So, it's a little disingenuous to say, hey, this is just for this or just for that. There are a lot of different sides to it. And I think it's really, really important that we go through the process and not just jump the gun and not just say, pull it, keep it. Let's go through the process. And I guess the one last comment I'll make is that there is an ask, or there will be asks of the developer. One of them being the 30 parking spots for our seniors, for the senior center. I am a firm believer from a business point of view that you negotiate in good faith, and that you have the conversations. The conversation may not be worth it down the road, but you still have to negotiate and go through it. So, that's pretty much what I had jotted down as one other thing. There was some talk about, commercial zoning, and where, some of the overlay district is not commercial, but country commercial and mixed use already. So this would really be a mixed use, not a commercial. I know it's a small little differential, but there is a differential. And one of the things that, from an aspect of retail space, it is a great boom to have a community with its own built-in retail, not only for the retailers but for the residents. And that's been proven with a lot of different mixed-use projects, especially down in Florida. I think Celebration, Florida is one of the premier works that people talk about. So it does help that residential, that commercial aspect of it, but it also would bring a push into the local commerce. And I think that was one of the letters from the Chamber of Commerce president was that he was very excited about. So those are my comments.
Shall I go?
Please.
All right. I think this is a conversation I probably have with Matt every day. I think a lot of people have made assumptions about whether or not, why it's there, should it be there, and the answer that I have is that I can't answer that right now. And I think I've said all along, the proposed local law I'm in favor of, but I still am not completely there. I believe that what we did last week, it is not a resolution. It is part of the law. The law says you must come developer, you must come before the town board. And there are certain things that they've got to guarantee us. A, that they will not change the character of the neighborhood. B, that they can talk to us about where they are on our infrastructure schedule. You know, this week I watched a lot when the people in Jackson, Mississippi have been without water for the past 2 weeks. My question still is, and I think I raised it with you today, Matt, that could happen to us. Sewer, we're working not just to add the additional streets to the sewer district, but actually to resolve some of the issues we currently have in the Peekskill portion. Why are we resisting taking it out? I'm not resisting taking it out. I'm not saying that I'm for sure that it should be there, but I'm not resisting taking it out. In fact, that law that we passed, that part of the law that we passed last week says we can have a public hearing.
Right.
It says we can make that developer give us different studies like a traffic study. We are listening to the neighborhood. But what we're also seeing is our crumbling infrastructure. There will be a time that will be one of those communities where the sewers will have issues and the water. You know, we are working to get the water superintendent to allow him to do some cement relining this year, but it hasn't been done in 15 years. So we don't know what the condition of the pipes are. We know the condition of the pipes that have broken throughout this year. All I'm asking everyone is to please not put the cart before the horse. Not say that we are doing something for a developer, but I will tell you that successful people make the town successful. I'm not saying that I don't know this developer, but what I do know is I bet on the town. And I have to look at it from the point of view of how does this fit in our town, and will it be good for the town in the long run? So please do not tell me how I feel, because I'm not there yet. But the other thing I want to say, and it's about the ATV riders, we hear you. And I hate the fact that we've now got two camps of people, hikers and ATV people. We hear you, we understand what you're saying, and I guess, Matt, you'll talk about what we're looking at.
Sure. I'm happy to jump in at that point. Let me just say for Ms. Siegel, the planning board work sessions will begin to be I'm sorry, there's a race outside my window here at Town Hall. The planning board work sessions will be televised beginning this month. And my understanding was that the packets were uploaded at their last meeting. I could have misheard or misunderstood, but they are doing that as well. And so that is moving forward appropriately. To what Councilwoman Roker was alluding to for our ATVers, I did put a call into the state to see if there was any. I mean, we do have state parks. We do have what I believe are underutilized state parks to see if there's an appetite to have a conversation. What I did learn was that ATVing at state parks is prohibited. So that unfortunately that attempt was spoiled, but it did lead to a few other good conversations that we had with some of our partners over at the state parks to provide us with an idea of other potential possibilities, which we're going to spend some time trying to figure out. We hear you again. I think I agree with Councilwoman Roker. We hear you. We hear the ATV riders, but we also hear our hikers, and I know how much our nature trails play a pivotal role. We have 40 miles of nature trails in the town of Yorktown. We saw how critical they were during the height of the pandemic. People were there constantly, and Jane and Walt do a great job maintaining those trails for our benefit. And I think those trails are even not for nothing. I think those trails are a major tourist attraction to our community for people to enjoy the natural beauty that we have to offer. You think of places like Sylvan Glen, for instance. I mean, it's just it's an incredible place to go and spend some time out in nature. But I think that by working together, we can come up with some solutions that will allow everyone to coexist. And I think that's something that we should try working with, of course, the Parks and Rec Commission and our Parks and Rec Department. And I know that I've spoken with Jim Moderano, our Parks and Rec Superintendent, about this quite a bit. And so we're going to continue having those conversations. I appreciate Councilwoman Roker and I appreciate Councilman Lachterman's comments on the proposed overlay districts. Elise Graham's question, why does the Unicorn Project not be subject to demanding criteria? Every application is going to be put through the same approval process that the town has. They go through the same thing. The town board is focused on the overlay districts, not an individual project. And I think that's important because, as we've heard earlier, there seems to be some commingling of an approval of an overlay district legislation equates to the approval of a specific project. It does not. That's not written in the legislation. And as we discussed at last week's work session, we did amend the law. We did amend the law based on a number of factors, including public comment. We were listening. And I think we're committed to listening to hear the concerns of our residents. Specifically, I'll speak to Diego about your traffic concerns. I hear it. But at the appropriate point within an application's approval process, a traffic study is required. That traffic study is not required as part of an overlay district legislation consideration. That's for a specific project. And so I understand, and again, to Councilwoman Roker's point, putting the cart before the horse, I think that may have been done. But also I just echo the fact that I hope the residents understand it's a multi-part process. The first part of that process is establishing the overlay districts. Then it goes to the individual projects. And there will be a fully public, a fully transparent process for each individual project that wants to petition the town board, because we did amend the proposed law so that they have to petition the town board in order to be considered under the overlay parameters. That was, again, something that we proposed just last week. And again, to Councilwoman Roker's point, there were 8 criteria the town board would consider in that process. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that we wanted to touch on here. If there are any other comments from the board, feel free to jump in. Councilman Diana or Councilman Patel, any comments?
Yes. Thank you. With regard to the overlay district, folks, why don't we just let them leave it as it is? Single family zone, you can go in and knock the house down. Done. All right, at least now we have a little bit of control. Okay? I think with the overlay district in place, or let them reapply for the zoning. Maybe it'll be done, maybe it will be denied. I don't know. But at least with this overlay zone, we do have a little bit of control. I think we have a lot of control on what we can and can't, what we will and will not allow to happen. And as the supervisor just explained, we can and will
have a traffic study done. There's a lot of process that has to be completed here before anything else happens. So, as Alice said, let's not put the cart before the horse. Let's let things play out a little bit before, so we can see exactly what's going to happen. This is in its infancy, folks. We hear you, and we're going to do the right thing for the town and for you because you are members of the town.
Can I just add one thing after you're finished, Tommy?
Absolutely. To the ATV folks, we hear you. There's no more avid motorsport person than probably myself. Unfortunately, or fortunately, maybe I should say, I have to thank Jane and Walt for the hard work that they do on the trails. The countless hours of volunteer work and helping the Eagle Scouts get their projects done, etc. Unfortunately, our trails are not made for ATVs. They are made for foot traffic and bicycle traffic. Possibly in the near future, we can work something out between the state and ourselves. Maybe there's a little plot of land where people can go and ride. I know there happens to be one in Massachusetts just over the state line in a state park. But unfortunately, at this point in time, we do not have that luxury to have our state parks give access for ATVs. So I hope that in the near future, we can take care of that. And please, folks, the process has to continue so we can see what's going to happen with this overlay, if it's going to happen, or we give him, give the builder a different zoning or something. But I think that folks here have to realize, and John probably knows better than anybody, that there's a process that goes on here, and this is what we have to go through. And we hear you. We're here for you, and we're here for the entire town. There's no individual builder that we are here for directly. Thank you.
What I wanted to say was, and I think everyone out there is as interested as I was in terms of why could this property become multifamily, because it doesn't have that as a designation. And with the help of my good friend, the town clerk, I found out some stuff. In 1982, the town board received an application to rezone that property to allow the developer to put 130 senior affordable units on it. While doing that, one of the things he discovered in his memos to the board was that while he could not speak on the main building, the little buildings behind the main building, he wasn't sure they were original to the property. So from 1982, people had looked at it as a future multi-family site. And I think we as elected people, particularly when I think you do a comp plan or whatever, and you just throw any zone on a piece of property because it's already occupied, you do a disservice to people. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Councilman Roker. Any other comments from the board?
Yes.
Councilman Patel.
All right. Let me just tell you, this is the way I think. If you own the land, you have a right to build within the bound of the law. Okay? Mm-hmm. And now, what was done really here wrong, in my judgment, that all the horses were already out, from the barn, and they tried to go to the gate. Okay? I did not know all the detail unless as recently, it was, I attended the meeting because many of the town board meeting, I was not even informed some of the things, why it was disconnected from my computer that I did not hear any of this meeting. And then I went there, I call them up, send me the meeting Zoom. Let me just show you something, this is no 1983 to 1986, water source, land impact, the top engineer and PE, okay, there are more people, we wrote it, and those things has not been done even today, okay? Yeah. So, two things, you built it, the most important responsibility elected official has it, you have to have a final say in here, okay? Otherwise, you should not be running on the board and sitting on the board, and I think we agree that, maybe. Or not, I don't know, okay? But the volunteer board members, they serve in a planning, they are not cheap, they are priceless. They give their valuable time and give informations. And then in between the developer and all that, it is a little hodgepodge, I can tell you something like that, And on top of that, people have a right to say, all those people, they live around the town, maybe they have their issue, they are worried about the value of their property. I'm sure, okay? If somebody does something else, some may increase the value. You don't know.
Right.
So all these things are smoke right now in a smoke. It's like you take water, really clear water, and put 2 drops of milk, it becomes translucent, okay? The light cannot go through there. It scatters all over. We are in that stage now. And then this new word, overlay zone, scares the people. I don't know if everybody understand the real meaning of that one. That can you do whatever you want, and then maybe every few years the people comes and go, and no consistency. So this is the kind of questions I have from the people. My computer has so many emails, most of them probably you don't even have that one really. And I try to still digest it, that this overlay issue has given a big scare to the people. Water, those who are living in the town may not have enough water if something goes wrong. 20 years ago, 25 years ago, somebody wrote the Yorktown is running out of water because its infrastructure cannot handle it, okay? People are living in this surrounding area, in Heights area, they do not have a sewer. So there will be additional sewer, additional water need, infrastructure, all these things. So people are scared. How are you going to give them really answer? They are asking for the answer, okay? And I'm just looking for the answer myself right now. What is the best thing for the town? So if somebody tells me that, we elected you, why are you listening to the developer? Maybe the developer may be good, because more people will have housing in a smaller area. So more people live in a smaller area, and other land will be left underdeveloped. You won't be able to develop. But at the same time, the traffic, the sewer, all this, you're going to have a requirement, all the different things, the fire, the police, everything need their, whatever the development comes in, either more units, small unit, in between. People think that why do you need so many units in a town, and all the stores? I want to listen to them, because can we support that many, development right away?
Right.
Provided all the services. So this is where I am now.
Yeah, and those are all, I agree with you, Councilman. And those questions that we continue to get asked are all going to be answered as part of any application's approval process that they all go through, because it's the same standard process for everybody.
But the people don't trust us somehow. Why are we, perception is not very good. Right. How can we, give them a really comfort, and I think a lot of another thing, let me just say it very clearly. The people thinks that the senior will get the housing, not the affordable rate. Maybe the accessibility because of the disability laws and like that, you will put the ramp and everything else is great. But can they afford there is no question is ever answered by anybody that maybe there are some unit for people like a police, the fireman, the teacher, something, or maybe somebody children. This thing is going on since 30 years, maybe 35 years. Since I'm involved in a little bit of this town, the issue related in 1983 to 86 master plan review. My expertise and the knowledge of the water, sewer, land impact, and everything. You put a big building, you need a pump to put it on, and if the pipe freezes, the entire building can fall apart. All the pipes, when you turn the water on, it's going to flood the whole area, whole Caldor Lake or whatever area. All this thing is going to cost a lot of money. We have to worry about the sewer. We have to worry about the water, fire, you name it, everything, and we don't know yet, okay? And we have to educate ourselves first.
More, but I think it's all about doing it at the appropriate time in the appropriate way, and all those applications.
No, what I say, appropriate
same process, the same
things at appropriate place.
Yeah, I know you like that. I do want to end on one fun note though, and that's Lonnie's reference to White Oak Farm. I forgot to mention that at the beginning, but we do have a complete gem in Yorktown. If you haven't gone over to White Oak Farm to go see your friend Bry Hart, he's Westchester County's only commercial producer of maple syrup, and he is the most southern commercial producer of maple syrup in the state of New York. And so if you love maple syrup, please go over, support a small business, support one of our farms. I was over there on Friday with our town clerk, Diana Quast, and we watched him as he tapped one of his 2,400 trees. But the real secret, I think, the maple syrup's good, but the honey. I walked out of there with a 5-pound jar of honey. My wife didn't know what to do with me when I got home, but it's the best, is that honey. So, Lonnie, thank you for reminding me about that and supporting our local farms. That's great. Any other comments from the board? Otherwise, we'll move on with our agenda tonight. We go to personnel. We have resolutions. We have quite a few. We will accept the retirement received from Dawn Irving from the Engineering Department effective June 30th, 2021. We will accept the retirement received from Margaret O'Reilly from the John C. Hart Memorial Library effective May 28th, 2021. We will accept the retirement received by our dear friend Liz Proctor from the Assessor's Office effective March 18th, 2021. We will accept the retirement received from Brad Goodman of the Building Department effective April 30th, 2021. We will accept with great regret, the resignation of Patty DeMarsh from the Albert A. Cappellini Community and Cultural Center effective March 12th, 2021, and wish her the absolute best in her next chapter. We will accept the resignation received by Joe DeLulio from the Highway Department effective February 22nd, 2021, and we will reappoint Douglas McGowan as a member of the Board of Assessment Review.
Motion.
A motion?
Second.
Second from Councilman Patel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then we will move on to our next item, which is a public hearing decision. We have a resolution to adopt lead agency negative declaration in secret for local law amending Chapter 135, the town code entitled Buildings Unsafe by adding a new section 135-13 entitled the Yorktown Zombie Property Code. Board?
Just can I say there was some comment made by somebody in the process of approving the law. So we are not that far yet, right? Is this the final?
No, we're not even anywhere near that.
Okay, yeah, because somebody said there was some email was there and it was undigestible,
so this is a decision. This is a decision for the zombie.
Yes, I know what we have to do it, but is this really law right away? Somebody asked me and I didn't.
Oh, about the zombie law. Okay.
All right. Okay.
So, any discussion on the board on the proposed zombie law? We did have a public hearing on this that we closed. We did receive comments on that proposal. If there are no comments from the board, then we will entertain a motion to adopt lead agency NEGDEC and secret for local law amending Chapter 135.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to adopt local law number 4 of 2021, amending chapter 135 of the town code entitled Buildings Unsafe by adding a new section 135-13, Yorktown Zombie Properties Law. Discussion from the board?
I think it's a good law. People they're all over town. And this is one way to kind of give Jason another, the code enforcement agent, another way to help resolve the problems of these zombie buildings.
Right. You're right, Alice. It's another tool in the toolbox. I know there's local law and there's state law, but this addresses just that. So it gives that extra set of teeth, kind of like a shark has. I hate to analyze it to that, but it's a shark has a couple sets of teeth. So if it doesn't fit the criteria of one law, at least this law may fit it, so that we can get things accomplished. That's what we're here to do.
And I want to thank Councilman Diana. This was something that he wanted to tackle. I think actually last year you brought it to my attention, but with COVID and everything, we moved it to the back burner. And then when we had that incident that you went back over to the tire center up on East Main in Shrub Oak, you brought it right back. You came right back to my office with John Landy, our building inspector, and you said we got to do something on this. And this is the result of that work. And so I thank you for your leadership on this. And
thank you.
Also our town attorney and our building inspector and our code enforcer for coming together and trying to find another tool for us to utilize. Yes, Councilman Patel.
This law was, long time ago it was discussed, really. It's just that, we didn't do much. And it has more than one thing to happen good. And some may not be good. Some worry about who are you to tell me how to live? And there are some senior citizens who say, I paid my taxes and everything else. So that is okay. But somebody leave the mess in his front yard or something, and somebody wants to buy the house or sell the house, or somebody don't care it and they go to foreclosure or something, town, taxpayer, whatever the taxes didn't pay, and if the value of the property is less than the amount of taxes, we all pay the penalty. That's why this is very important thing. And also the health and safety and well-being of neighbor and the community. So this is a very good law. It's been, and the problem is enforcement now. That's another big hurdle. But I hope they'll understand that there is a law on the book, and then you just, enforce it. So thank you.
The enforcement is key. You're correct, Vishnu. It's just like a stop sign that isn't enforced. If you don't enforce it, it won't get done. I got to thank John Tegeter also, because he actually helped with this. Myself, John Landy, and John Tegeter had actually gone out to the Shrub Oak Tire Center there, the old Shrub Oak Tire Center. It no longer is. It's and it created somebody who I believe is a self-proclaimed manager of that property to actually reach out and say, hey, we had 3 town officials here and they're moving to knock this building down. That was our next step. And all of a sudden, things started to get safe and get cleaned up. So it does work if you do enforce. Right. And we didn't have any teeth. And we did have the teeth to enforce it at that point, but on a different type of level. So thank you, John Tegeter and John Landy also.
Wonderful. Okay. Do we have we'll entertain a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to resolutions. We'll begin with resolutions that were already passed by the town board on February 23rd, which was last Tuesday at our work session, but we wanted to include a more formal or two more formal, two formal resolutions pertaining to the item. And this is to authorize the supervisor to sign a 25-year agreement with HESP Solar LLC for the construction of a solar facility and 4 EV charging stations at the Granite Knolls Sports Complex, subject to permissive referendum, and to authorize SECRA for alienation of parkland to enter into a 25-year agreement with HESP Solar LLC for the construction of a solar facility and 4 EV charging stations at the Granite Knoll Sports Complex, which requires the New York State Legislature's permission.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motions carry unanimously. I think we can take the next 3, which is authorize the extension bid for annual electric work on town buildings. We're also going to reject and rebid the preventative maintenance and on-call services for emergency generators, number 20-1 bid. I want to thank our town clerk for her assistance with that. We're also authorizing the comptroller to refund the following duplicate second half school tax payments. And lastly, we have a resolution out of closed. Okay. Out of closed. So resolved, the supervisor is authorized to enter into an agreement with CRCA Engineering PC for on-call engineering services in an amount not to exceed $22,000 for a 2-month term, according to the rates set forth in the proposal dated March 1st, 2021. And secondly, resolved, the supervisor is authorized to enter into an agreement with Linstar Engineering PC for on-call engineering services in an amount not to exceed $10,000 for a 2-month term, according to the rates set forth in the proposal dated February 26th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motions carry. And with that, we also will also entertain a motion to accept the monthly reports from the Building Department, Finance Department, Receiver of Taxes, and the Town Clerk for February of 2021.
So
hold it. I have a comment on that one. I would like to see electronic version of that report before we, end of the month, or electronic email short summary of the report, because we used to get it all the time during the meeting. And this we know, and actually, according to the New York State Controller, if you spend more than $25, you must have, some kind of record. But I would like to see, just the electronic version. The second thing, may I say something before we go forward? I want to thank each and every employee, those who have, their retirement, or they find another place to go, or good luck to you, and thank you for your service, because without you, we cannot get things done in any place, And so your dedication, and some of them are a very, very long time employee. Thank you, and hope you keep well, be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman?
Can I just ask our town clerk, Watts, could you just, in regards to Councilman Patel's request for the monthly reports, I know that I saw a building department report.
I can forward them all to him, yes.
Okay. So, Councilman, do you want to table that vote, or do you, or
No, I say, yes, okay.
We're okay?
I've got the report this time, but I would like to see the in electronic format, okay? No paperwork.
Yeah.
Because there was an issue. I asked somebody that there was some bill, in December or something in reference to the gazebo, and I didn't get any answer from anybody that whether we made the payment from last year or we didn't pay yet, There was just a questions I wanted to ask it to say whether it's in a public record.
I completely understand.
Okay.
No problem. So then we have a motion and a second for accepting the monthly reports. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Before we leave, I forgot to say something during my report to the town.
Yes, please.
Last week I had the honor of being on a call with our new Congressman Mondir Jones.
Great. How's he doing?
He's doing pretty good. And he's got a lot of, I think, innovative ideas for not only the county that he lives in, but also Westchester County. And one of them that he talked about was light rail. And he talked about this under the umbrella of climate change, and to be able to reduce our carbon footprint. And what he talked about is that many of us live in a town in Westchester, and we don't need to go to Metro North because we're not going to New York City. We're just going somewhere within our town or in the next community. and that is one thing he's going to be exploring. And I hope to get him to come to speak at one of our board meetings. But I thought that was one of the innovative ideas, because I've heard that from other people wanting to know whether or not that is possible.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, can I just say one last thing we missed in the women's recognition?
Yes.
We have the first female president of the United States in the U.S. and the first African American female United Nations ambassador. It is wonderful, wonderful news for our nation and their dedication to our countries. The name abroad. Welcome to every new United Nations ambassador and president. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Town Clerk Quast, did we cover did we cover everything that we needed to on those two resolutions, or did I?
The only one I'd like to clarify is to authorize the seeker for the alienation of the parkland. So,
Yes. Yeah, we read that one and it was approved unanimously.
okay, thank you.
Yep. You're welcome.
I motion that. Wow.
Actually, there is no change in the use of land. It's just a formality. We are not giving the land to anybody.
Right.
So it's
Exactly,
not
and-
like it before, Yeah.
Yes, and as we stated earlier, and I spoke with him over the weekend, but Senator Harcum does have a bill that would actually would no longer require an alienation for this type of act because you're not giving the parkland away. You're just, so he has a bill in the state Senate that would actually handle this. So I think when we get to the appropriate point within that process, in addition to requesting the alienation, we should also, I think, pass a resolution supporting his legislation because that would be, I think, immensely helpful, not just to our municipality, but municipalities across the state of New York. Okay, and with that, if there's no other business before the board, I'm up. Councilman Lacterman, I saw you twitch.
No, I was getting ready to give the motion.
You want to be the first one in there.
I know it's getting past Tommy's
Go ahead.
bedtime.
That's right, it is.
Lacterman.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
All in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Have a
Good night.
great night, Yorktown. Thank you so much.
Good night.